Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Welcome to the Monday version of the Joe Chaffee Weather Show. It's the 19th of August, 2019. Sorry for the delayed beginning. Lot going on, and also a little bit of traffic on my way back from running an errand. And here we are. So we're going to get going. Thanks to everybody for being so incredibly patient. I really appreciate it greatly. We had some strong thunderstorms and a little bit of severe weather move through this evening. Actually, the humidity's come down a bit outside, which is good after that steam bath that we were in for today and for yesterday. And we still have some more work to do with regards to getting all of this out of here and getting into a nice dry air mass, which I think will be coming for the end of the week and into the weekend. And it's going to be, I believe, much like the one from this past weekend, obviously, but going back to the weekend before that when we had that absolutely fantastic weather. That is going to be a repeat performance to a large degree. And I think you're going to see the dry air bleed down as far south as the North Carolina-Virginia border, maybe even get a little bit further south than that. Who just hit Super Chat? Let me just check. We get the WPC's map on there. David Schwartz, thank you very much for that. Yes, we also had some news about Fios One News, which is who I work for, and I'll fill you in all on that when we get to the end. But yes, some life changes coming. To give you the hint. So, checking out the rainfall for the rest of the next 7 days, you can see that it's a lot of it is confined to the South Atlantic coast down into the Gulf states, because if you look at this, it pretty much tells you that there's another frontal boundary that's going to wind up stalling out down in the southeast. Still getting some big rains in the middle Mississippi Valley and parts of the plains on the order of several inches or more. The rainfall, which is convectively driven for the northeast and the northern mid-Atlantic states, well, those rainfall amounts are less, but of course they are going to be dependent on the thunderstorms and how they behave. We have weather systems that are moving through, so this at least looks to me tomorrow might see a few pop-ups. So there's always the danger with these pop-up storms that they wind up sitting in one particular place for a long period of time, and you get some very localized flash flooding. But the one for Wednesday and for Thursday, those are frontal. They're moving along, so it's probably limited as to how much shower and thunderstorm activity, how much rainfall you're going to be able to get from that. We had, as I said, some rough weather. And SPC today jumped it up to a slight risk this afternoon. I think that was pretty well deserved given what we saw with some of the warnings. Had some wind gusts over 60 miles an hour in parts of southern Westchester County when those storms went through. Also saw some strong cells move through the coastal counties of New Jersey. And now we're seeing those thunderstorms in southeastern New England. You have a small area of slight and an even smaller area of enhanced risk in Iowa, so they're going to get ready for that. And out in the west, it's pretty quiet around the Great Lakes and up through upstate New York and through a good chunk of Pennsylvania. There's no thunderstorm risk this evening or for tonight. So, we've been kind of stuck here. You can take a look at the U.S. satellite view. There's a wave that's way out in the ocean south of Nova Scotia. That never really was able to become anything tropical. It didn't have time. And, the frontal boundary from last week, which was originally forecast to stall offshore, wound up stalling inland. And that's problematic. In order to get these frontal boundaries to generate some kind of low, that's going to become tropical, you need the frontal boundaries got to be sitting offshore. If it's sitting on land, you really can't pull it off. And once the surface wave moves out, it's already pretty far to the north. We're seeing some thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast, disturbed weather that's down in the northern part of the Gulf of Mexico. It's also impacting the areas in Florida. We have some disturbed weather in the Caribbean. This area, by the way, in the Caribbean was something that models were generating into something last week, and right now it doesn't appear like that's going to be any kind of a threat. We're going to take a look at the tropics in just a little bit. So I'm going to bring up the big window, and we'll start with tonight's radar. Radar right now, it's coming up on 8:15 Eastern time, so you folks know all too well that if you're watching this on a replay, it's dated. So if you've got severe weather issues, please go to weather.gov, to your local National Weather Service office, to find out what's going on. You want the latest weather information. So in the Northeast, here's your thunderstorms that went through. They're much weaker now as the line is offshore. Still getting some weather going on in southeastern Massachusetts and parts of southern Rhode Island, and also seeing some precip up in down east Maine. In the mid-Atlantic and South Atlantic states, some scattered showers and storms showing up from Maryland down into North Carolina, and then you're seeing some other storms back in western South Carolina, central Georgia. Then it picks up in coverage through the lower Gulf states, southern Alabama into Mississippi and into Louisiana. Some scattered storms, a couple of clusters here in parts of southern Illinois. Not much going on in Iowa yet with their risk of severe weather. Have some showers and storms up in northwest Texas and on the Oklahoma panhandle. Some scattered storms that are going on in parts of New Mexico. Otherwise, actually, when you look at the full U.S. radar, it is pretty fairly quiet for this time of year. And we also have a little bit of activity down in southern Florida, some scattered showers and thunderstorms that are going on there. So the next event, and when we look at the jet stream, again, you see the southern edge, that 588 height line that you see running from northern New Jersey back to about Chicago through South Dakota, and then makes the curve down into northern California. So our flow, we're just right on the edge of that jet stream, big upper high sitting over Texas that covers the southwest almost to the southeast coast. There's a little bit of troughing there from North Carolina down to the Florida panhandle, which would explain some of the thunderstorms that you have going on today. And then there's another upper high sitting off the east coast. So we're still on the edge of this jet stream that we know what the game is with this. It pulls up, it drops down, it pulls up, it drops down. So we are close enough where these little ripples move along, and we had showers and storms from that yesterday here in the Northeast down into the northern mid-Atlantic. Saw some today as another little ripple goes through. And now watch that trough that is swinging southeast north of Lake Superior. That is the driver for the first of two cold fronts, really. One that comes through late Wednesday, but the important one is with the trough itself, and that's going to come in on Thursday. So we get through that, and then as that trough swings around, you'll notice that the southern part of that jet stream drops all the way down into North Carolina by the time we get to the end of the week. So our flow is actually coming from the north, down through Lake Huron, and then swings east across the Northeast, and that is going to bring in a nice dry high that should be in control I think at least through Sunday. The northwest winds aloft are still with us on Saturday, and even on Sunday starting to weaken a bit. Jet's beginning to make its next move up further north as we go into early next week, and then as we move through the week, we're going to have that same struggle. Now, the models are struggling with the idea in the longer term. Are we going to have a trough that's going to basically move across southern Canada and just kind of keep us on the edge of the jet, or is there going to be a deeper shortwave that's going to drop in? Well, in time, we do get a deeper shortwave going into the Memorial Day weekend if it times out this way. So that would bring down, for the last weekend of the summer vacation season, a pretty decent shot of cool air that stays in place pretty much for the whole weekend, at least the way it looks. No real change, though. You look at the overall flavor of this pattern, really, it doesn't change. It's that southern end of that jet, the short waves that move along it, they amplify, and then they pull out. The jet relaxes a bit. and then it starts all over again. The model in the longest part of the long range on the latest run wants to build an upper high into Illinois and Indiana, which would mean maybe some late season heat possible if this verifies, but this is so far down the road. I think, the prudent thing here in terms of how we've been dealing with the approach of the forecast, when you think about it, it really hasn't changed very much at all throughout much of this summer. We've had, it's been all about the southern end of that west to east jet stream. It's been extremely dominant. Blocking up in Canada has been very much in control of all of this. So here's I'm just running backwards here. So we have, again, the chance for pop-ups tomorrow. This is not the radar presentation, by the way. This is the rainfall. And Wednesday evening, there's a lead trough or a weak front that comes through with some showers and storms. But if you look back, western New York, over into northern Ohio, back to about Chicago, and then extending west from there into Nebraska. That's where the second front is. And you've got that 1022 high near Lake Winnipeg. That front gets through here on Thursday, and we get some showers and storms. Looks like it will come through without any real complications, not stalling out nearby. Front makes it fairly far to the south here by Saturday. We've got the frontal boundary down in South Carolina, back into northern Alabama and Mississippi, and then the high slowly moves eastward, going in through the rest of the weekend. Bit of an onshore flow develops as we get into Sunday, but I think the air will still be basically dry. Then, of course, here we go with the next round of humidity coming up. And then here comes another front for the latter part of next week. And this is the picture for the Labor Day holiday weekend. I don't know if I said Memorial Day holiday weekend before, but I meant Labor Day. But it does bring down that next high. We'll be dealing with the same issues, which is, how far south does the front get? Does it stall out close by, or does it move down into the southeast? Of course, where it stalls out, if it stalls out in the southeast, then you folks are going to be dealing with showers and thunderstorms, more numerous certainly. And of course, there's always the chance that there could be some kind of wave development on it. The model loves to use its imagination when it comes to all of this. Now let's check the tropics just to see if the models are doing anything at all. It remains very, very quiet here with respect to the overall pattern. We are seeing the GFS trying to pick up on some kind of a low late this week east of the Windward Islands. If that winds up being correct, you'll probably see the Hurricane Center talk about it, but it doesn't really do very much with it. It looks like a very small system that it takes down into the Caribbean, and then it loses it. And you do have lower pressures off the southeast coast and also east of Bermuda that sometimes could wind up developing into something tropical. I really didn't give it a good analysis, a good look at the overall flavor to see if that possibility exists. But given the time of year, certainly want to leave the door open. And again, you see how the GFS uses its lovely imagination, developing waves off the southeast coast and maybe making them semi-tropical or not. We'll see. I have to think that at some point things are going to get going here. It's been very interesting watching the fact that the El Nino has disappeared, which would favor an active Atlantic side, but you have to wonder how much lag time there is. That El Nino weakened fairly late into the spring and early summer, so it just does take the atmosphere some time to play catch up, and maybe it won't catch up until later September or early October. Just openly speculating here, not making a forecast, just making an observation. Here's the satellite view of the tropics, and again, you got that disturbed weather in the Caribbean, a little bit of disturbed weather off the Florida coast, but nothing there of consequence. Weak waves in the intertropical convergence zone, a little bit of Saharan dust there, up north of 20 degrees north and north of the Cabo Verde Islands. Otherwise, the rest of the Atlantic looks very, very quiet. And here's a close-up view of that low that's off the east coast. You actually can see a circulation, some kind of low-level circulation there You see it spinning away, but there's hardly any convection near where that circulation center is. All the convection is running out to the northeast. So that tells me that this is certainly much more frontal in nature than anything else, and it's not going to really be doing very much as it moves away to the northeast. You'll notice the blow up of thunderstorms, how it came very, very quickly this afternoon. They blew up, and now they're gone. And now, of course, you're seeing some of that drier air that's trying to seep southward from upstate New York and parts of western New England. And by the way, speaking of the dry air, why don't we just take a look at the dew points here, what we can expect going forward. I'm going to run this back to present time. And tomorrow, getting a little bit of a break. There's actually a little bit of dry air that pushes down tomorrow morning down into the Hudson Valley to just about New York City and Long Island. You can see dew points in New England are all in the mid-50s to low 60s, but you go just south of New York City, and your dew points are still in the upper 60s and low 70s. And then, of course, that humidity comes right back for Wednesday ahead of that first boundary that comes through. And we're still dealing with 70-plus dew points in many areas Thursday morning into the afternoon. So with that second front, I think we have to allow for the possibility that there could be some storms. And then here comes that dry air. I'm so looking forward to this. Friday, the 50s dew points get down almost to the North Carolina-Virginia line, and it's certainly nice and dry throughout areas from northeastern Virginia all the way up into New England. Saturday, you've got 40s dew points. How great is that? You even have 40s dew points down into Washington, D.C., Baltimore, 50s dew points to the Carolina line, and that dry air actually even gets a little further south. You have 50s and low 60s down into North Carolina. So a break even there. And here we are now for Sunday morning. Still very dry. The afternoon dew points come off up a little bit, but they're still running in the reasonable 50s. And even Monday morning, the dew points are still pretty reasonable. It's not until late Monday and then Monday night and Tuesday, now you start to see those dew points come up. But it takes a while. You still even have some shadings of 50s dew points still showing up in eastern Virginia. So that push of dry air is significant, and this is the one that the models are keying on for the Labor Day holiday weekend. This is, at the moment, it gets the drier air, the dew points at near 60 down into Virginia, North Carolina. And for the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, at least into Labor Day, it still looks pretty reasonable. So the pattern pretty well speaks for itself, folks. It's the same story over and over. Hasn't been much change. Longer range models telegraphing ridges in the east, troughs in the west, and so on seem to be long range fiction at this point. Look, I think at some stage we're going to wind up seeing some kind of pattern shift of some sort, but when and where remains to be seen. Anthony Orr, the wind shear is overpowering at the moment. There's still too much Atlantic shear going on. Now that could relax very, very quickly, but we'll have to just watch and wait. There really isn't much else we can say about this. What year did they change the name from Cape Verde to Cabo Verde? I don't know. I think maybe I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. I think that's about as far back when they made the change. Atlantic storms in 2019 since Barry on July 14th. The last time the Atlantic had no named storm activity from August 15th to the 19th was in 1982, says Anthony Orr. Always, one of our two statisticians here. We have Scott Briller, of course, the chairman, and we've got Anthony always there ready to throw some good stats at us. Iron Mine 10, very active thunderstorm season for the Northeast New York area. Certainly has been much more active with thunderstorms, particularly this month, than it has been in the past few years. It has really picked up considerably. There's a a broad cycle of about 5 years or so for where I live anyway. There seems to be one, and I think we hit the bottom of that perhaps last year, and we started coming up a bit last year, and I think we've come up a bit more this year. Joe Studo, welcome aboard and welcome to the chat, by the way. Any severe thunderstorms on Long Island today? They did briefly have a severe thunderstorm warning up for Nassau County, but that was it. And right after that, the storms fell apart. Daniel Seaman got flooding in Tampa, reminds you when Debbie came through. These thunderstorms with these stalled frontal boundaries, certainly Daniel can produce a whole lot of rain, particularly if they're sitting around for days and days and days at a time. Donna Lavasseur, bad hair weather for sure. Looks like no one melted yet. My hair looms like phantom comes alive. Yeah, this has definitely been a stretch of bad hair weather for sure. All right, folks, we're coming up on 8:30. Let me just very briefly tell you what's going on. So I've been at FiOS 1 News now coming up for 5 years. Thank you so much, Scott Briller. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much for hitting Super Chat tonight. That is a cigar and for me. And again, thank you. So after 5 years that I've been here, but FiOS has been around for about 10 years, Verizon has decided to change things up and go in a different direction, as they put it. So FiOS 1 News, unless something radically changes, and it's hard to imagine that it will, although there's always the tiniest chance that could happen. But we've been told that we are going to be done as of November 15th. Now, the good news is that I have been toying with the idea of putting my energies full-time into my YouTube channel, of course, and also into my 3 websites, 2 apps, and my Facebook page and everything else. And I guess I needed maybe just a little bit of a push. I had been seriously thinking about doing that at the end of this year. Now I think I'm going to be forced to do it, which is a positive. I really have been thinking about this for a long, long time, to just do my online stuff, and that's it. This does take a lot of work, and more importantly, I really, really enjoy it. It's my channel, it's my Facebook page, they're my apps, and I can really do what I want, and in terms of producing and putting things on the air that I can't really do on someone else's platform. So this is going to be a big opportunity for me. So I'm going to I'll keep you posted on the goings on. Jason Schaefer, thank you so much for hitting Super Chat tonight. Definitely really appreciate it. We're going to work together one of these days over at Channel 11, which I still will be doing, by the way, at WPIX from time to time. Still doing some freelancing there, particularly now, because if I'm going to be out of a steady income, it'd be nice to pick up a few extra bucks once in a while to help pay the rent. So thanks again. As for a fill-in on Channel 11, David Schwartz, I am actually scheduled for Saturday, August 31st. Am I right? Saturday, August 31st. So I'll remind you guys to look for me then. Mike Wheeler, doing well. Nice to see you on board tonight. Thanks for being here. You haven't been on in quite a while. And Paul Roman, I hit the like button for Joe C. at Patreon, Wheel Weather Forecasting. Thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate it. I'm glad you all enjoy it. I got to wrap it up now, but for those of you who are interested, of course, I do have my weather platform on Patreon, which is a subscription platform. It's $2 a month. You get a lot of extra weather stuff, along with you can contact me whenever you need me, and I will respond to you fairly quickly, unless I'm on the road. I always find that most people seem to message me while I'm driving to and from work. And that's the other thing about this. I've been doing 130 miles a day driving back and forth from where I am on Long Island, 65 miles each way, and that has really taken a big toll on me. The drive It's off hours. Usually there's not a whole lot of traffic, but you drive that distance every day. It's an hour and a half getting here. It's an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes getting home. That's 3 hours of my day in my car, and that's a lot of time to spend going back and forth. Verizon said something was going to replace Fios One News, but they didn't say what. They haven't told us what either, David. As soon as I know, I certainly will let you know. All right, folks, have a great evening. Tomorrow, live stream should be at its usual time. I got a few things to do during the day tomorrow, so I'll figure out late in the afternoon. You'll see the schedule go up, and you'll get your notification. Patreon members, you'll get your heads up a couple of hours before. And the chat board, by the way, always opens up about 2 hours before I start the live stream, so you can jump on board, and if I'm around and not too busy, I jump in the chat as well. So have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.